You want to take us back?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh. Just sign stuff. It's all right. Ready?
You got a whole pen?
Yeah.
Okay, call this meeting to order. We need to rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to get approval for our meeting agenda. And a motion,
I'll motion.
a second.
Second.
Christie, all in favor? Okay, that's good. At this time, can I get a motion for our public hearing?
A motion.
Second. Ellison, all in favor? Okay, Mr. Calduvo, turn it over to you for our public hearing.
Yep, we'll slide this over to Maureen and all of our public.
Good job, Paul.
Quiet in the back row.
Yeah.
So that, is there right there, you can hear me?
Now,
Can you hear me now?
yeah,
It's supposed to be down here.
there you
There
go.
it is, okay. So we have a bunch of requirements for the annual public hearing, and tonight's that night. As far as our annual timeline, we're up to the public hearing portion, which has to be within 7 to 14 days before the vote. Our budget notices have gone out in the mail, and next Tuesday will be the vote. All of these items are requirements for the public hearing and just for the process in general. We have to go to vote. We must present a budget to the voters. We vote on the third Tuesday in May of every year. The budget has to be prepared in the 3 categories: the program, the administrative, and the capital. The public hearing must be held. That's what we're doing tonight. Board of Education vacancies have to be filled. We have to tell the Section 495 real property tax law requirements and the exemptions. Budgets have to be made available upon request. The information needs to be on the website. It must be in the required format. Property tax report cards, admin salaries, and district report cards must all be presented. All of those items are available on the website. They're all back there on the table. If there was any public here, if you two are going to get some of them, they're there for you. This is the actual budget notice that comes from SED that we're required to send out to the voters. It's obviously very hard to read and cumbersome. So most districts, and we're one of them, we put it in a newsletter and have other pieces of our budget that are a little more easy to explain and make highlights and put together the parts that are more important to the taxpayers. These are the revenues that we're proposing in our 23-24 budget. We have our state aid, tax levy, fund balance, and some other revenues. It's a $93 million budget. State aid makes up 61% of it, and the tax levy 33% of it. These are the corresponding expenditures in the categories that we generally talk about our expenditures in, and these are the categories that we file in: salaries, benefits, BOCES, debt service, utilities, and everything else. These are those same numbers in the expense categories that are required by the public hearing documents. This is shown by program expenditures, administrative expenditures, and capital expenditures. Same numbers in total, but in different categories. Across the top is, I like this slide, it's the dollar bill, so it gives you the percentages in those categories. So the bulk of our budget, as most budgets are, is spent on the programming. Then the capital and then the admin is generally the smallest portion. And across the bottom, it shows what different categories are in each of those areas. This is our, 5CAS it's called now, and it gives us our enrollment. This is our year 2022, those are our beds numbers. And this is with live birth rate moving forward. So we have been declining, and we all know it over the last 10 years. But now it looks like, based on the live birth data, that we might maintain moving forward. So something to think about moving forward with what we have going on. Highlights of our budget. It's an increase of 5.08%. It includes a tax levy of 2.84%. And remember, the tax levy is just one of 3 parts of the tax rate calculation, and we'll get to that going further along. And we are increasing our appropriated fund balance from $1.5 million to $3 million that we're putting towards next year's budget. The budget document has been out, and it's been on our website now for about a month and a half, and just trying to show that's where the 5.08% increase is shown, because the categories get very busy, and sometimes you don't have your eye on the actual totals. And this is also on the budget document, so the tax levy increase is shown there. And the increase in the designated fund balance is shown there on the documents that have been out. So what is the tax rate increase and the tax levy increase based on our calculations? So as I was saying, tax rate is made up of 3 parts. You have your tax levy, which is the part that the Central Square School District puts out there. You have your town assessments, which we tax over 11 townships, and all the individual assessors in those towns are doing the assessments. And then you have the state equalization rate, which New York State is putting an equalization rate out across all the townships that are assessing across the state. So the levy is the amount of money that the district raises in total from the property owners of the district. The rates are calculated by dividing that total amount, the levy, and the taxable into the total assessed taxable value. So the rates that are reflected are different in all the different townships based on those calculations. So the best that we can do, so your taxes may increase just based upon the assessments of your township, even though the levy remains the same or goes up a certain amount. The rate will reflect differently based on the townships and whether they're at full assessment, and those that are not at full assessment are being given an equalization rate, and all of those factors play in. So the rates are always moving, even if the levy is not going up as much as the rates. So I just put this up here to keep in mind. So we were at, in 2021, our actual tax rate in August, after everything fell into place, was $18.84 per thousand. The next 2 years, we had no levy increase, and so the rates did fall significantly. So this year, with the 2.84 proposed increase on a $100,000 home, we're looking, if you go down to the bottom, it's a 45-cent per thousand increase. So approximately $45 per 100,000 of assessed value. So at that rate, we would be at $16.40 as our tax rate, which we still are not even back to the 21-22 rate that we had 2 years ago. These are the county, our county, Oswego County's comparables, their tax rates. Central Square in yellow. We are in the middle to the lower side if you compare rates across our counties. Also on the vote next Tuesday are the 2 propositions, the general budget and the transportation. As I showed in the transportation, presentation, I think it was last month, it's required to be voted on by the voters. But it doesn't increase, sometimes I think people misunderstand the amount's already in the first budget, so it's not gonna be an additional increase on top of what's in the budget. We have 3 seats, and we have 3 board candidates. Christy Fishman is an incumbent, Steve Patch, incumbent, and Casey Morey will be a new candidate running for the board. Tom, this is your turn.
Did you know?
Did you know all the good things that happen in Central Square?
Well, and again, I just wanted to my quick summary of that is we've been showcasing them every time I have a superintendent report. I mean, I don't know another district that with the opportunities for sports and band and guard, and you know, we have additional guards and we have additional sports teams that were created. I know with modified, so we're always looking at how we can further engage students. Several of my cabinet members were just at the unified basketball game where we had a buzzer beater victory over Hannibal. It was awesome. But again, if you look at the highlights of what we're providing our students in clubs and activities and extracurricular and sports and music band, I honestly feel that we are second to none in what we provide our students, and we do it in a really smart way. And kudos to Maureen over the past 7-8 years on what we put together with budgets that I really think we're fiscally responsible to the community. I don't know any other districts that have had 2 consecutive years where they did not raise taxes at all. And a lot of superintendents were saying, you're crazy, you're leaving money on the table. But with COVID and with the relief money, we didn't feel it was appropriate to do that. And so we did. And now, as we've been talking a lot in cabinet about roughly 24 positions that we feel, some of them we may be able to not need anymore, others we absolutely will. We'll never go back to not having a special patrol officer in every one of our schools. So there's things like that in our counseling and our social workers and things like that play such a key, vital role. So I'm thrilled of how we've used the money in a financially sound, fiscally responsible way, and yet still provide students with all these opportunities. Very happy with it. There you go.
Okay, so this is for you, Tim.
The OK League is fantastic. There's you see our student board rep. Matt, why don't you, put you on the spot for a second, why don't you share something that you have gotten out of that group?
So OK League has been an incredible opportunity for so many of our youth to be able to go out and truly apply the knowledge they learn in schools in a fun and unique way. At this one, it was all about the 315, I remember. And so it was kind of fun getting to take your concepts of history and stuff like that, but then also take the students' personal niches and stuff like that and be able to apply where they thrive and stuff like that, whether it's art talents or music talents, and be able to truly create something with what they've learned. So it's been an incredible experience to just really expand on what you're able to do with the knowledge you have.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Some other successes this year, achievements from the athletic department.
And again, we don't have a diving team, so the fact that we are able to then partner with another school, very similar to hockey. We had a really nice staff member, drove a van, kids over to Fulton every day, so kudos to that guy. But again,
We should get a CDL license.
actually, funny that you bring that up. So they changed the occasional driver, so now I have to go to the DMV and pass a written test to be able to change my license, so if I ever have to do that again. So I got a little book that I've been studying on the weekends to help me pass that. But again, wrestling was fantastic. See Rocky Files really making a name for himself. Great group of kids. And as you know, we still get phone calls. Senator Mannion, it calls regularly. There's so many things. There are things that I'm pretty sure I don't think he's watching this at home right now. There's going to be something done very special for Paul Majik. The fact that he's been doing this, what did we say, 58 years? Yeah, which is just remarkable. And he's cranked out leaders. Christy Fishman was on his team. It's remarkable I have yet to see somebody that's been on his team that hasn't gone on and been successful in school and then afterwards, so he's just a living legend.
One of the best high school coaches ever in the country.
100%. 100%. Core character and what, that's amazing. Champions bowling, who doesn't love that?
Dean knows a couple of those kids.
Melissa Costello won her indoor track event sectionals and went on to compete in 2023 NYSPHSAA New York State Federation champion Staten Island. So again, it's remarkable to see our athletes and what they go on to do. And then our music program, which I feel is phenomenal. Anybody that's been to any of our shows, it's just amazing the amount of work and the parent volunteers part of it, because we cannot do it without the parents volunteering and moving all the props and whatnot. It's pretty remarkable. And it seems like every year we add a guard, or a couple years ago, right, Maureen, we made it legit the middle school. We're the only middle school winter guard that competes. So again, they asked us to increase that, more people in getting involved and stuff, so we did that. It's always a great show. There it is. Art in the atrium's fantastic, packed in here again this year. Kudos to Missy Stats, she does amazing work. And again, what I like to end this part is looking up at these screens and seeing where these kids are going to be going to, to college or right into the workforce or into the military, and you look at their extracurricular things, you'd be hard pressed to see someone that doesn't have something filled out, because we know that when they're doing an extracurricular, that they're far more likely to come to school and be successful. Matt Stevens right here, I know it because I see it every day. His politician. What better opportunity to be able to provide him than being able to be a student board rep on the board? So kudos to all the things that you've gotten involved in.
So remember, voting next Tuesday.
Huge.
That's where we're going to do it.
And our worry is less and less people across the county, the region, go out to vote. Because they say, oh, it's not a problem. We don't need to go out and vote. The numbers have drastically, I think last year there was maybe 2 hours till the polls closed, and it was a record low amount of people. I'm saying, you can count how many people came out to vote. It's very nerve-wracking, because everyone says, oh, there's no problem, it'll pass. I know everyone's gonna go out to the polls, but when everybody has that mentality, it gets a little scary. So, whoa.
Does anybody have any questions before we close the public hearing? You good? Okay. You good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. At this time, I'd like to make a motion, or ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
A motion.
Second. And all in favor? And need a motion to go into regular meeting.
A motion.
And second,
Second.
Laura, and all in favor? At this time, we'll move on to item C, community open forum. There's a lot of community here.
Paul, you want to say something?
Just glad spring's here, it didn't rain today, we got some baseball games.
That's right, we saw some sun this past week, yes. So nothing there. We'll move on to item D, special presentation, or nothing there. So how about a proposed executive session? A motion. Allison, second. Lauren, all in favor? Okay.
say something. Oh, I got that from the superintendent on the thread of level superintendents. I just wanna say something and then somebody hears it before I don't know how public it is.
Yeah. I just let Johnson run on just because this is coming, like we were planning on it for Wednesday, so just to make sure that.
Yep.
Okay, can I get a motion to, come back into open session?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Lori? All in favor? Okay, at this time, be it resolved that the Central Square School District Board of Education hereby approves an agreement between the district and an employee discussed in an executive session and authorize the superintendent of the school to execute the same on behalf of the district. Can I get a motion for that?
Oh, a second.
All in favor? Okay, on to item E, personnel. Can I get a motion to accept personnel?
I'll second.
And Christie, all in favor? Okay, item F. Can I get a motion to accept, item F 1 through 10? What? All in second? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Lori, all in favor? Okay, item G, start off with Mr. Stevens. Any student board representation reports?
First, I would like to say that our Futures and Decisions Week that we had last week here at the high school went very well, and we had our wonderful guest speaker, Kara Filler, who gave a very impactful and powerful speech, and I know a lot of our students definitely took something away from that talk. Also, our 5th grade leadership conference has been rescheduled for May 30th and will be at the Central Square American Legion. And it's also that time of year, and we have started the process for finding the new board rep to this Board of Education.
Thank you, sir. I do not have anything from board members. Does anybody else have anything? All good. And next is Mr. Pelledufa, superintendent.
Allison Douglas has received the Board Achievement Award from New York State Schools Board Association for participation in the Leadership Development Training. Congratulations, Allison. The following students received awards from the Scholarship Art Awards. Christian Morrow, Gold Key, Digital Art. Honorable Mention, Photography, Lillian Grinnell. Gold Key, Jewelry. Madison Tucci, Gold Key, Jewelry. Aiden Baxter, Silver Key, Digital Art. Samantha Moran, Silver Key, Jewelry. Honorable Mention, Jewelry. Dalton Brammer, second honorable mentions, Digital Art. Autumn Keller, honorable mention, Jewelry. Anna Lowe, honorable mention, Jewelry. Oliver Randall, honorable mention, Jewelry. And Emerson Wadowski, honorable mention, Jewelry. Paul V. Moore High School alumni, Gabby House and Gavin Murphy were selected to be part of a student panel at the New York State Work Experience Coordinators Association's conference today at the Craftsman in Fayetteville, New York. They spoke to over 100 WBL coordinators, administrators, and counselors from across New York State about their internship experience at Paul V. Moore High School their senior year and how it helped pave the way for their next steps after high school graduation. And it's kind of ironic because Gavin works for us at the transportation when he's not actually in class, and they love him down there. So yeah, he wants to be a director of transportation, and he's on his way. Yeah, most kids, I don't hang out with their friends when they're not in classes. He actually comes and he works for us. Gabby, who interned in teaching, just finished her freshman year at SUNY Oswego, where she is majoring in psychology and plans to be a school counselor social worker. She learned how much she loves cultivating relationships with students during her internship experience. Gavin Murphy is majoring in human resource management at SUNY Oswego and completed close to 300 internship hours and our school district transportation department as a high school senior. He learned that having a degree in human resources will be a good foundation for entrance into this career field, which is his goal. Thank you both to Gabby and Gavin for representing Central Square so well.
Nice.
And that concludes the superintendent report.
Thank you, sir. And to item H.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
did
There
you
was one
forget?
part, yep, that we put it as part of mine, right
Oh.
there, childhood nutrition program comparison. We have great news. I will leave it up to her to be able to explain it. Amy Caitlin.
Oh, you almost forgot about her.
This is big, right here.
Oh, I thought you
Oh,
were just-
I think it's what
No, I was just here to be part of the crowd. So actually, I am here to give you a little bit of what I would consider good news. For years, everyone has been inquiring and wondering about free lunch for kids eating for free. We were on the cusp for a while. We have finally achieved numbers in which we can move forward with that process. Okay, so what I'll do is, I'll give a little presentation here in regards to the program that we're currently on, which is a National School Breakfast School Lunch Program, in comparison to what's called a Community Eligibility Program. Now, similar to last year, or during the pandemic, when it was seamless summer option, all the kids could participate at no charge. That was a federally funded program that ceased in June 30th of last year. Knowing that, we were able to compare about the average number of students who would want to participate in our program if all students were allowed to participate at no charge. So because of our the numbers that we have, we are eligible now to participate in what's called CEP, which is a Community Eligibility Program based on those numbers. So
You gotta turn it on the side, Amy.
turn it on. Thank you.
And if you can turn the microphone a little bit more towards you, just so that
I'm
when it goes
sorry.
on our website, that's okay.
Can you hear me?
Is the green light on?
It is now.
There you go.
Perfect.
Alrighty. So, the current program, we are National School Breakfast and Lunch Program. The students pay for lunch. Some of those students incurred debt as a result of the no shaming policy. No shaming policy came out a few years ago where, if any of you remember back in the day, if a student owed money, we offered them an alternate meal. We no longer do that, so all students are able to participate and have whatever the lunch item or breakfast item is that we are offering, based upon what their student status is. What happens currently is applications are collected for the free and reduced status, that of which would determine what the cost of each family would have. The student status is based upon the household income or a direct certification from New York State. That direct certification comes from a direct download, that of which includes those who are participating in any kind of state funding program, Medicaid, SNAP, TANF, etc. And the reimbursement for that comes from both the state and the USDA based upon the student's status, free, reduced, or paid. The Community Eligibility Program, the program that we're looking to maybe work into here, all students will eat at no charge. What that does is it eliminates the increase of the student debt. Student debt has increased, as I said, based upon the debt for the no shaming. All right, so what we've found is that though it's a great idea to allow all students to eat, some of the families, whether it be by choice or just they can't afford to pay for their meal, are charging student debt fairly rapidly, actually. And that's across the nation, that's not just locally. No applications are collected under CEP, but we do require what's called a household income form. Now that household income form is a form that gets submitted, and basically all that does is it gets processed. It doesn't do anything to the status of the student, but it does allow for the district to still receive their title money. Okay, so it's very important, and that'll be made known that it's very important that we can get as many of those income forms home as possible. The reimbursement comes strictly from USDA. So the state basically pulls right out of that. They still have jurisdiction over what we can offer, but the USDA reimburses us for the rates of the meals. So how do we qualify? That's been the big nut up until just recently. First, we have to identify the student population. So what that is, as I mentioned before, there's a direct certification that comes from the state that well, actually, let me just read this to you. This is the official definition. Identified students are defined as the students certified for free meals who are not subject to verification. That means no applications. This includes students directly certified through SNAP, TANF, and FDPIR, which is the Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, as well as students identified as homeless on the liaison list, Head Start, Pre-K Even Star, migrant youth, runaways, and non-applicants approved by local officials. That means if there's an administrator that knows history or has an opportunity to approve a family. Foster children certified through means other than an application are also included, but the students who are eligible based on submission of an application are not. So that's why up until this point, because we've relied so heavily on the free and reduced applications, though our district was higher in numbers, they weren't necessarily directly certified through New York State. It was mostly through the free and reduced applications. So once we get that ISP, it then goes into a formula to create the reimbursement rate. So schools and LEAs with a minimum identified student percentage of greater than or equal to 40% in the prior school year can participate in good standing with SED. So the prior school year, so we had to take the numbers from April 1st of this year in order to qualify for the following year, okay? So we did all of our work up until the first part of April, and at that point, what we do is the ISP has to be at least 62.5% to have all meals reimbursed from USDA at the free rate. As of April 1st, the district's ISP was 42.26, so it's 2.26 over the required 40%. And then the number, so what happens is this information goes into this reimbursement estimator. So this reimbursement estimator is provided to us through USDA. So we take the information or the number of identified students that we found, it goes into line 1. The total number of enrollment goes into line 1.2. And then it calculates the number of meals that are going to be reimbursed at the free rate and the number of percentage of meals reimbursed at the paid rate. Now you'll notice that there's no reduced pricing in there. This program only reimburses at the 2 rates. It's either free or it's paid, and that all comes from USDA. So this is the rate, this is the highest it's ever been. So given the situation, because we're now eligible, it's a good time to actually consider going this direction. All right? It's determined with the use of this calculator, but then we do have some variables that will affect the cost. Okay? Those variables are enrollment, participation, and the cost of goods and the operating cost within the department. So the benefits though, all students are going to be able to participate without the stigma of the free or reduced meal status. So regardless of what that status used to be, they all come through and they can participate at no charge. It's going to increase the increase of student debt is going to cease, okay? Up until this particular point, any of the reimbursement that comes to cover the cost has to come out of non-federal funds. What that means is any of the costs that come out of the department had to come from the tax base, the taxpayer, the general fund. So with that student debt ceasing, then that will in turn not be coming out of the general fund. I can't say it won't, any of it come out, because you'll still have to offset costs of some of the program.
I think it's a perfect time to, and I'm not talking when it was free during the pandemic, but to let the board know what that debt is.
That debt currently, is hovering right around $17,000.
For this year?
I'm sorry?
Just in the student debt portion of it?
Just the student debt.
That's not including the negative.
And that is the negative student debt.
But I'm saying, like, that's not the other, like, there's a certain amount that we also pay, isn't there, like, at the end of the year? Like, Tom mentions like 600,000 or something like that.
Oh, so you're talking about program costs?
Yeah.
There is a definite reimbursement of program costs that are separate from the student debt. And I think Maureen could probably elaborate a little bit more on that. I know that last year, yeah. So,
So basically that 17,000 is basically kids going through the lunch line being negative.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's just this year?
No, that's in combination. This year, it's up until about April 1st, was around $8,000 that we've accrued on top of what we had just prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, like I said, it'll continue to increase. So, but I know that with SSO last year, we were able to, for the first time, I think Maureen said we were able to finally show a positive with a reimbursement rate. So, it'll to be seen if that, if we're able to do that with CEP. Okay. Because the rates are a little bit different, based off of SSO versus CEP. The administrative costs are definitely reduced in regards to the time that it takes to process applications, the paperwork, the postage, the filing, all that other good stuff comes along with that, to reduce that. This program renews every 4 years. So unlike the free and reduced lunches, families have to renew every year. This particular program renews every 4 years. So at the end of our 3rd year, in April 1st, we would look at that number again to determine if we're going to, at the end of the 4th year, recertify. Maybe we will, maybe we'll have to come back to the National School Lunch Program. But what that does is it, in my eyes, gives us 4 years for legislation across the nation to determine whether they're gonna go with the universal free lunch or not.
So for the kids that just hover right under that threshold, who normally would not, get a breakfast, now they can
Now
get
they
a
all can,
breakfast.
yes, yeah. And a lot of families do choose not to participate because they are right on the cusp. Maybe, we've seen applications where they're $10 over, and we don't have any choice we don't have that gray area, we have no flexibility. Those are numbers that come through from the state, So those families especially are the ones that are gonna really benefit. All right, so the district does not have to offset the negative debt via the non-federal funds, as I mentioned, through the general fund. So at this point, I think that probably your benefits are gonna outweigh the negatives. So if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to.
Two, potentially 3 questions. First one is it going to impact the lunch offer? Did we run some figures to see if, with the reimbursement rate and everything, what the total amount coming in based on the numbers from prior years, if that would offset the costs of making all that food and everything else, and is in direct relation to that, is that going to change the food that we offer to the kids?
So I don't plan on changing anything in regards to what we offer the students. I have to offer in regards to the requirements that they put forth with the whole grains, etc. As far as you had asked about changing I'm sorry.
Well, I assume we have data that relates to, how much money was spent in the last year, the last 5 years on providing school lunches?
Yes.
And then how much was
And
collected?
I think Maureen's got a slide that we're gonna try to pull up to show you what the costs have been. I know that just in regards to the reimbursement rates that we've received this year from state and fed, I did kind of a little bit of a comparison. I mocked it out, I guess you might
That's what I'm
say,
asking, yeah.
for CEP, had we been CEP this year based upon the numbers that we serve. And We're right about the same amount of money that we would have spent in cost, what we're covering for the negative debt for this year.
Okay.
So this is our total lunch fund situation. So I wanted to put it like this because we've been talking about the lunch fund balance being in the negative. And it sounds like it's always in the negative, but it actually, in 13-14, we still had positive fund balance in our lunch fund. So the first year that we had higher expenditures than revenue, expenditures are the blue lines, revenues are the green lines, was 14-15. And the actual numbers are down on the bottom. So you can see we, give or take, our revenues around 1.4 million, our expenditures are around 1.5 million. So it slowly was building negative fund balance. And when you get to 18-19, it's kind of stops right there because when did COVID hit? March of 19? We all went home.
Oh, 20.
20. Okay, actually, it's actually 20, I should tell by looking at it. So right there, the numbers went down to like 1.3 million revenue and almost 1.4 expenditures. At that point, both revenue and expenditures were down, but we were still in the negative. The next year, the kids kind of came back and we had to feed people and we did the whole thing. So we had a big loss in 2021. So then last year, they put out a program that Amy was calling it SOS.
SSO.
But it's essentially almost like CEP. Everybody ate for free and they reduced for everybody, and they reimbursed for everybody. And that's the first year, if you look at 21-22, where we were actually in the black again. So she's using that participation because we're hoping that if, again, everybody has the opportunity to eat, the participation's gonna go up and look like that. So in my mind, as a district, it's almost like a no-brainer. We've gotta try to get to that again. It might not be that good, but it shouldn't be as bad as the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And those balances include, obviously, the negative student debt, but the negative debt of the operations of everything.
So I guess my secondary question was, and just because of my kids in the district and friends that mentioned it, when COVID was happening and everyone ate for free, there was, I wasn't in the school, so I'm just relaying this, but students weren't allowed to buy a second lunch. If they wanted more food, they weren't allowed to buy the extras and stuff. Is that going to change?
It will.
Okay.
Because I want to continue with offering those items to the students. I mean, to get their treats, their ice creams, their cookies, their chips, their,
Right, like
whatever
the double
extra-
lunches,
the
or
double
whatever, they'll just have
lunches.
to have a balance and they'll have to pay for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they'll get one reimbursable breakfast and one reimbursable lunch per year, per day.
So, Maureen, the 518, is that negative balance, is that's continued, carrying forward,
Yeah.
always on the books?
Yeah, and so it was at a negative 762,000. Now we're
Right.
back to, we're up to negative 500. So if we could go to that, keep going up, we might actually get back to
2 or
it
3
even.
years.
Right.
Yeah, if it's a couple $100,000 a year, right?
Right,
Over a
and then,
4-year period of time, you might
Right.
be able to wipe that out.
right, and then we'll never actually move any money out of the general fund into the school lunch fund.
Right, so the general fund's carrying that 518
Yeah,
balance.
yeah, it just shows like it's a due to, due from.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, Amy, thank you for all the hard work.
You're very welcome.
Nice job.
I did forget one thing, Pearl just reminded me that, if you guys haven't read your email, you all know about Tim McCarthy, and I just wanted this to be aware. If a member of the Board of Education moves out of the school district, she or he is immediately ineligible to serve on the board, therefore technically such as a member does not have to do anything to be off the board. Nevertheless, it is better for appearance sake that the member provides a written resignation letter to the district clerk due to moving out of the district. As of May 8th, we received that letter from Tim. Okay. I want to let you guys know that.
We're never gonna get to meet him, Melissa.
We'll move on to item H. I'll take item H 1 through 9. Can I get a motion to accept?
A motion.
And, all in to adjourn?
Motion?
Christie, any second? Okay, all in favor? That was wonderful, you did